This podcast is also available via stagelink.com, the groundbreaking new platform for live performing arts. Please support the podcast by liking, subscribing, commenting, and tagging the podcast. It helps us to continue to bring the industry high level content. I'm your host, Shanae Stiletto, and my guest on today's Circuspreneur podcast is author of The Cycle of Kindness and founder of Cirque Quirk, Nathaniel Allenby. Welcome to the podcast, Nathaniel.
Thank you, Shanae. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here. Really grateful for you having me on and looking forward to sharing this wonderful message.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you for taking the time and sharing your amazing autobiography. I want to let listeners a small sneak peek of the synopsis of your autobiography, The Cycle of Kindness. This authentic, amazing, and true story tells unbelievable tales about the capacity of the human will. This candid portrayal of Nathaniel Allenby, of Fight to Survive, Cirque Quirk, and Allenby Art aided by journal entries, regales readers with larger than life factual accounts of sneaking into castles, jumping off an 87-foot cliff, learning to dumpster dive to acquire food, being robbed in London, protesting at the Camp for Climate Action, and pedaling across Germany without maps, over the Pyrenees mountains on the Mediterranean, through freezing cold with numb hands, doing the seemingly impossible, living on less than $800 in a year by the kindness of strangers. Nathaniel's travel adventure autobiography is about life on a bicycle that lasted for 6 years, pedaling 28,000 miles across 10 countries and 30 states. It has been called a cross between Into the Wild and Eat, Pray, Love. What started out as an incredible journey of self discovery turns out to be the revelation that there is a great big world full of incredibly kind people. This is their story as much as it is his. And that is, I was telling you before we got into the podcast, Nathaniel, that it is very Eat, Pray, Love. And that was one of my favorite autobiographies. And, it just informed so much of my life at a certain time in my life. And your book is so powerful. And my favorite thing about the book is about determining of how kind the world is and how kind people are. And I think that we can't get enough of that in this world, and we can't get enough reminders of the kindness of strangers in this world in places that are unfamiliar to us, which those of us in the circus are really used to. We're really used to being
Yeah.
in the world. We're used to being in a lot of strange spaces where people that don't know us invite us into their lives, invite us into their worlds. And I again felt so much of my life in reading your book and your adventures. And I was so excited to discuss, several facets of what brought you into wanting to bring your story, into book form, and piecing it all together, because it is so much work and such a labor of love and such a labor of kindness of those that obviously helped you to put together the book, and gave their effort and their time, and yeah, and helping you to reveal your truths, which you come to so many within the book too. So can you give us a little bit of background of what prompted the writing of the book?
So the writing began during the pandemic quarantine shutdown when
Nice.
performing work dried up. I was growing a garden, raising my firstborn daughter, and wanted to do something that would make a profound positive impact on the planet. I started circus because I wanted to bring joy and wonder and amazement to people. And when I couldn't do that, I felt a desire to feel a sense of value with what I was bringing to the world. And I had a really wonderful mentor who went by Uncle Bill. He was an animator for Disney for decades, and he was one of the only people who ever filled a mentorship role for me. And he passed a couple of years ago. But before he did, he continued to encourage me time and time again. My boy, you need to write this book. It's past due. When are you going to write this book? And I watched him get dementia, which was really challenging, and thought, he's not going to remember me, let alone these stories, but that I can honor his memory and write them down. And I ended up writing 4 books worth of material. I have a manuscript that's 310,000 words. I
Oh my God.
needed to realize in the editing and publishing process how big of a task that was going to be. So I ended up taking just the first year out of 6 years of traveling. And that's all of the time in Europe, pedaling 7,500 miles across 7 different countries. Only England and Scotland I could speak the language. So learning to get by in a foreign place where I don't speak the language, and was so grateful to be really, really positively impacted by the kindness of strangers. And I couldn't have gone along as far as I did if it weren't for these total strangers who were completely willing to open up their home to me or give me food or just point me in the right direction. And it was such an inspiring realization to re-find my faith in humanity, which I had lost as a child.
Mm.
And to want to share this message with others was really the motivating force that caused me to write this book. Because, sure, it would be great to sell books, but that's not the point. The dream is to create a movement, kind of like Pay It Forward, where people are sharing their gifts with the world, doing random acts of kindness, and sharing what they love and can do for others in order to make the world a better place. Because you're right, we live in uncertain times. We live in what feels like a very divisive world. Divide and conquer is one of the oldest tricks in the book, but it just so happens to work. So we really could use more messages of unification, of trusting those we don't know, and that people all around the world are inherently good. Call it benevolent or altruistic, but people out there aren't trying to hurt us. They really do want what's best for one another. And I think we're ready as a species to move into a golden age where we're no longer fighting amongst one another for resources. We can let go of this dog eat dog mentality and think of, like, how can I lift other people up in my path to success? How much more do I achieve and how much more successful am I when I elevate everyone else in my path along with me as I go? And so
Well, I think that
let's
that's
create a
a
world
beautiful
like that.
message. Yeah, let's create a world like that. And I think that, coming into and going into 2025, that we are on we're on the cusp of doing right now. That's a great message. And that's why I was excited to have you on the podcast and discuss the cycle of kindness, because that's very much, I think, what the world needs going into
Yeah.
2025. I think that that's what our worlds need, the arts world, the worlds of those that, are empathic. Even though I think that everybody is empathic, but there's those within like the artistic communities that feel like they have, an even deeper sensitivity. And I think that artists are a part of, communicating that strength and communicating that vulnerability. And you definitely did that within the cycle of kindness, where you were
Hmm.
very vulnerable in this book. You were very vulnerable in communicating your different experiences. I mean, there's experiences that I have had in my life and traveling and stuff that, I don't know if I would ever publicly discuss them, because they
Yeah.
are, experiences that, can be, you can feel shame of them, or you can feel fear about sharing them, or they're, again,
Hmm.
just so intensely vulnerable, especially being out in the world like that and not being in your comfort zone and letting the world kind of like lead you into these experiences, which you had so many. You had psychedelic experiences, you had, religious and spiritual experiences. I mean, there was so much
Hmm.
wrapped up into that reflected to me my own experiences that I've had, again, in being in the world and trusting in the world. And I really, from what I got from the book too, was about how it is to trust the world. And
Hmm.
how most folks I hear when they speak about the world don't speak about the world and trusting the world, and how there is so much of the world that can take care of you and protect you and provide that broader safety net for you to be able to experiment and explore. And I also thought about again just how privileged we are, in our lives,
Yeah.
to have been able to have explored the world with the passports that we have, with the
Hmm.
access that we have had in not being in fear and thinking, somebody will ultimately be kind to me. And I've always felt that in the world as well. I've always felt that the world is very kind, and I've had that reflected back to me ever since I was very, very little, with having pockets of experiences that weren't good, but the majority of them being just absolutely beautiful and wonderful. I would like for you to reflect, Nathaniel, on, do you think the experiences in the book that shaped you, I think, the most, in your quest for self discovery, which I have felt like I have been on that self discovery quest continuously within my circus career, just, coming into a
Yes.
space and coming into a country, coming into a town where I'm the only American or I'm the only English speaker, and I have a lot to do. I have my job to do. I'm away from family. I'm away from friends. I'm away from anyone who essentially knows me. And so feeling
Hmm.
like you're kind of recreating yourself, within, these different kind of pockets of contract agreements, or, for whatever length of time they may be. I mean, just a few days can really change you, which you had experiences like that, in the book, where you had one experience with someone and you were like, wow, that just really shifted my whole perception, and, kind of, took me into completely different paradigm, which I felt, very, very similar feelings in my own life at different periods of time. So if you could, kind of discuss that a bit, with the readers, or with listeners that
Gladly.
will eventually be readers.
Yeah, to echo some of your words, we are very privileged to come from the United States, where our passport is fairly automatically accepted into many, many places around the world with no questions asked. And we have this real beautiful blessing to be able to bring our skills and gifts to the world through our performance. And before I even knew how to juggle, I felt
Hmm.
honored to be able to go to permaculture farms and intentional communities and share not only my labor, but the skills that I had gained growing up on a family farm. I was raised in Oregon, pigs and chickens and cows and growing our own food. And my best friend and I got to Skillshare. He taught me how to fix bikes and dumpster dive and live on no money and,
And juggle.
live for myself. And he taught me how to juggle, and I got to teach him how to farm and the
Mm.
planting cycles and how to care for animals. And when we were at these different communities we visited, they were often very sad to see us leave because they wouldn't have gotten as much planted over the season prior to harvest had we not been putting in our hard labor every day. And we were often helping care for children or often teaching people as we were learning from them. It was a beautiful experience of reciprocity where there
Mm.
was no debtor kind of experience where it's like, oh, I'm only doing this because you're going to do this in return for me. It's very much a Burning Man sort of principle of gifting,
Yeah.
where we're all just gifting to each other with no expectation of reciprocity and no, like, oh, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. It's I'll scratch your back because you get benefit out of having your back scratched. And as I moved into the performance art world, I felt so thankful to get to go to Zimbabwe a couple of years ago with a company called Clowns Without Borders.
Oh,
Beautifully benevolent company.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
as you were mentioning, I was going into areas that had never seen a juggler before, had never seen a
Hmm.
puppet before, and had never seen a white person before. So the
Hmm.
kids would come up to me afterwards and like pinch my skin to see if I was real. And at first, kids were afraid. They worried I might be a ghost or apparition. And it took really profound moments of bringing joy and laughter to others to get them to be like, oh, this person's okay. This person isn't scary. But often at first, I had to learn how to reel it in, be a bit more cautious with how I would approach, be more mindful of how I would interact, and really meet the people where they are at. So I wasn't unconsciously violating a boundary that they didn't have the capacity to express. And to learn how to give this gift that I was giving in a way that would respect someone else's experience. And that in itself was such a learning journey that I probably would not have been prepared for whatsoever had I not gone through these wild adventures that are the cycle of kindness. I feel so thankful for the serendipity of this episode. The book's right here. I started mailing them out today after they just ordered and arrived from the printer. There were more than 150 people who helped with the GoFundMe to get this book off the ground. And I feel very blessed and thankful for a company called Next Level Trainings, which holds leadership and emotional intelligence trainings that I got to partake in this year, graduated from, and swore that I would publish this book as a part of this graduation process. And sure enough, in less than 3 months' time, I was doing 100 hours of editing a month on top of running Cirque Quirk, which is San Diego's highest rated circus entertainment company. I have two daughters under 5, and managing my household is, a big task as well. And trying to do all of this while taking on this extra project, it helped me to learn what I'm capable of. And I really want
Mm,
to encourage all of the listeners to learn what you're capable of, grow by stepping into uncomfortable situations, and really challenge yourself to be the best
mhm,
version of yourself that you can be.
mhm,
Well, one of my
mhm,
favorite quotes is from Jim Carrey at his commencement address to Maharishi University when he talked
mhm,
about his father getting fired from a job he'd been at for way too long. And his
mhm.
dad told his son, Jim, like, do what you love because you can fail at doing something you don't love. So you might as well take a chance at doing what you do love. So shine your light
Yes.
out there, people. Take your gifts out into the world. Bring your joy. Honor your truth. Make a difference in the world. Have a profound positive impact in whatever way brings you joy.
Yes, I love that quote from Jim Carrey. I love Jim Carrey, and I remember him saying that, and that has stayed with me too. Him speaking about his dad, who wanted to also, I think, be a comedian and wanted to be what Jim Carrey became. And yes, the message I got again from this book, The Cycle of Kindness, is go out into the world, travel. If you have not been out into the world, let it consume you, let it grow you. Let this, because you really, became the person that you were meant to be by going out into the world and letting it shape you. And I very much have as well. And you really grew up through this experience that you had over the course of these several years traveling. And I have found not any other bigger, I think, teacher than travel in within my life.
Hmm.
What is the biggest education? What has taught me the most about human beings? What has taught me the most about how to navigate, myself within? And then to also, when I go into spaces, other than being a part of the circus, the thing that folks usually say the most about me is they're like, you just feel so accepting. Like you really feel like just kind of anything can happen, or you can be around anyone. And I say, you know what? That's travel. That's being in the world and going to so many different cultures. And not understanding those cultures and being really accepted by people where you don't have the same perspectives and views. And just because you disagree with each other doesn't mean that you're not going to commune, doesn't mean that you're not going to, live and interact with one another, which has been
Hmm.
my varied experiences by being inside of the circus. And so I think that's a really big takeaway. What are the other impressions and takeaways that you've gotten from the book, from those that have read the book, Nathaniel, that have stayed with you? And then also, too, what what do you think has been your biggest lesson other than seeing what you're capable of, which is an amazing feat? And I feel that way a lot with doing the podcast. It really shows me, how expansive I can be, or, where I need to grow, and, where I kind of need to practice, and kind of where I can pull from more within myself. But where do you feel that this book has taken you? In terms of, I think, a big reflection. Whenever I do a big project, I really take the time afterwards to, I think, reflect on who I've become now, as a result of making it through that, profound experience, because it does take so much, from you, and grows
Mhm.
again so much within you. So I would love to hear the perspectives back, and then, more of the evolution of who you've become because you've been able to do this.
The greatest benefit I've received from writing this book, publishing it, getting out into the world is to create the ripple effect that I want to
Mm,
have, is
mm,
to be the change that I want to see in the world and encourage others. It's given me the confidence to encourage others to say, hey, whatever we're doing, we can give more, we can be more. It's caused me to want to make an app where we're just, instead of sharing, like, look at what I'm doing, look at how pretty I am, give me the likes. It's all about doing something for others,
mm,
having a profoundly positive impact on someone else in the world, giving for the sake of giving. And I really dream of getting speaking engagements and becoming a motivational speaker so that I can further share this message. Maybe someday I'll start my own podcast or get back onto my YouTube channel and be delivering really high quality, call it resonance vibration content, where I'm encouraging others to make the world a better place, where I'm doing everything I can. As it turns out, I'm synchronistically going back to college for the first time in 20 years for
oh, wow.
integrative psychology, licensed marriage and
Oh,
family therapy, so
mm,
that I can be a psychedelic assisted psychotherapist and
mm.
help people
Perfect.
heal their childhood trauma. Because Lord knows I went through plenty of it when I was a kid, and I lost my faith in humanity at that time. And the other thing that I really gained through this book was refinding that faith in
Mm,
humanity. And so
mm.
getting to be able to encourage others like, hey, we've all been wronged at some point or another in our life. If you haven't, you are immensely fortunate and lucky.
Yes.
But we can still have trust. We can believe in the goodness of people, even if we've seen the worst sides of certain individuals. That we don't need to let that taint our overall experience of mankind. That we can say, hey, no matter what's happened in the past, that doesn't need to negatively impact the way that I treat any human being, any stranger who has done no wrong to me, at least not yet. And, go out there with trust. Be vulnerable, be honest, authentic, forthcoming. It's really stepping into that power that has helped me be able to further deliver this message to empower others to be their most authentic self. Because the more we can be that, the more we give permission to others to tell the truth, to be honest, to share what's real for them, to share our emotions, what is coming up for us, and how that's altering our present experience. So, through
Mm,
all of those things, we can be better, lovers, partners, business people, husbands, wives, fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, all of it. And through cultivating better relationships, we not only give other people a model and permission to be their most best and authentic self, but really show the benefit, what we gain from being that and showing up in the world that way. And so that's really what I've gained the most through this whole process. It's what I want to put out there in the world. It's why I'm on this podcast with you, Shanae. It's Let's make the world a better place. Let's unify people through acts of goodness, benevolence, altruism, and kindness. We're here right now in the world for a reason. And I believe this is our reason. We live in exciting times. Change
Very.
is coming faster than ever. The world is
Mm,
going to look so different than the world we grew up in, let alone, our kids' generation. And we need to keep a hold onto our humanity. That is
yeah.
what will get us through these uniquely trying times in a way that is positive. So,
Hmm. That's powerful. That's
whew,
powerful.
yeah,
And I'm
I
with
love
you
this.
on all of that. Yes. I always say save for the folks in the back because that is such a powerful message. I don't think that there could be a more timely message for where we are right now. Again, where folks feel that, again, there's a lot going on in the world, but there will always be a lot going on in the world, right? Even just like reading through your book and just thinking about the different experiences that I've had in my life over the different years of something always happening in the world. And your life persists. Who you are
Hmm.
persists. You're having your experiences regardless of what's happening in the world, and how important and precious that is to continue to do the work, to continue to do the
Yeah.
art, to continue to produce and to evolve and to work on yourself too, because so much of this book is about you working on yourself. And I think that that is a really powerful message to send within our art, within whatever we decide to do as entrepreneurs, with whatever we decide to do within our artivism or activism,
Hmm.
is to consistently be working on ourselves, because that's the most
Yes.
important gift that you can give to the world. And if anything that I took away again from the book, from your book, The Cycle of Kindness, is the amount of work, the inner work and the inner journeying that you did on yourself and reflecting deeply on who you are. And, whenever I have the propensity again to blame the world and to blame the
Yeah.
world for all the things that it is making so difficult for me, and the things that I want to have and the things that I want to see, I always come back to myself, in those small moments, which are not small in my life, of am I doing right by humanity, by the person that I am right now in this time and space? Because some of those outward things may never happen, but the inner journey
Hmm.
will always be happening, right? I mean, that
Agreed.
facet of it, of who we are, will always be there in those interpersonal relationships. I loved your relationship that you had with your close best friend Dan, and how prolific that was, and how this set you up on that journey. And again, it reminds us of those bonds, and how just individuals in our life can have those impacts on us and change the course of our life, get us into juggling, get us into circus, get us into art, expand
Hmm.
our horizons, and take us on paths that we might not have ventured into. And how important that interconnectedness is in these times where folks maybe want to isolate, where they want to, maybe not be as close. I know there's a lot of people I've heard deleting numbers right now. And I would, I would reassure you to not do that. Just
Yeah.
because, folks have a differing opinion than you do, you'd be surprised on how much more that you can agree on, and things that you can, find a way to agree upon,
Hmm.
by continuing to work on those relationships that you have with people. We're getting down to
Hmm.
the last couple of minutes in the podcast, Nathaniel, and this has just been a wonderfully inspiring episode. Thank you for
Yeah.
inspiring
Thank you.
the listeners on the Circuspreneur podcast with your autobiography and with your work. Congratulations again on pursuing this and taking the time. And again, being so vulnerable and revealing such deep, aspects of, your inner psyche, and of your life, because I think it's a privilege when someone invites you into their life, and
Hmm.
into, the painful lessons that they have learned. And then again, the joyful and beautiful lessons that they've learned, as well.
Hmm.
And so, in closing out the podcast, what would you like to leave listeners about not just your book, but also again how it relates to the art form that we both love, that we've both gotten so much joy out of too, and how you would like to send this out into the circus arts community, because we are a family, and we
Yeah.
are here to support you in being this collective, of the circus arts, and in building and boosting up your book and your life
Hmm.
experience, and again how it relates to all of our our experiences, because your book is all of our book, in my opinion. I loved reading it, and I'm looking forward to the next installments of it too. So, what would you like to leave us with, Nathaniel?
I'm going to echo one of the things you said. Forgiveness is so powerful. It doesn't mean we
Mm,
were condoning what someone did to us, but it's
right,
letting go of that energy that we've held
right.
on to. I hope people feel inspired, motivated, and encouraged. If you want to join a movement, you're already in the circus world, great. Keep sharing your skills, keep bringing joy, wonder, and amazement to audiences worldwide. If you'd like to reach out to me directly, I'm Nathaniel Allenby. The book is The Cycle of Kindness. You can find it or me online. My other company, Allenby Art, sells my artwork and photography. But I really would love to grow a team of people who want to make the world a better place. So find me out there. Shanae's got links to my stuff. And if you want to work with me through Cirque Quirk, to produce and bring outstanding shows to the world. I always love collaborating with other brilliant artists. I'm based in San Diego, but I love traveling the world and have dreams of producing really special shows to help inspire people without language worldwide. So, for all of those artists out there, keep being yourselves, keep delivering your art to the world. You're making the world a better place, even if you aren't seeing the ripple effect. And for anyone else, consider being creative. Consider trying some form of art. Express yourself in a new way. You will grow with it, and you will find that there is some beautiful reflection or resonance that you're able to find back. So, thank you all for listening. Thank you so much for having me on this podcast. I love what you're doing in the world. You keep on shining your brilliant light, and it's such an honor to be in this space with you.
Thank you so much, Nathaniel. You're so amazing. And I really appreciate your support for the Circuspreneur podcast and for all of the different initiatives and for all of the work that I'm putting out into the world. I'm really honored by that. And thank you for continuing to shine your light and by speaking all of that beautiful truth out into the world. We need it. We can't get enough of it. And I'm inspired by all the things that you're going to be doing in the future. And I will close out this podcast with the Circuspreneur podcast. It is also available on stagelink.com, stagelync.com, the groundbreaking new platform for live performing arts that provides unmatched access and connection to this vibrant world of shows and entertainment. If you're a professional in the performing arts, visit stagelink.com/pro. StageLink Pro, StageLyncPro, offers industry professionals higher visibility, networking opportunities, and tools to support and enhance their careers. Until next time, everyone, I'm your host, Shanae Stiletto. Please stay tuned to the next episode of the Circuspreneur podcast. And thank you so much for joining this episode with Nathaniel Allenby.
Lots of love. Thank you for listening. Be blessed.